I don't have enough screen to get here. Here's a simple thing you can practice in the safety of your home without making a total fool of yourself. So, and it's not very hard. A lot of people do this when they're doing it, but just keep like one fluid wave and you could do it. So just practice that. When do we get to hear your beatboxing? Not yet. I am still learning. I took a class this weekend, and it's, again, if you go to lessonface.com, you could sign up for all these classes, from guitar to piano to rapping to acting to vocal classes to singing. So I signed up for this beatboxing class, and if you go on YouTube and you look for subsonic beatbox on YouTube, you'll see the guy I'm taking classes from. He's very good, and I've been trying to learn how to hum and beatbox at the same time, which is very hard. You try to hum, and even do any sounds at all, like try to hum and make any sound at all at the same time. It's very difficult, and I've been trying to learn that. That is the challenge of the week. So, Jay, have you sent me any questions? The other exercise that I think is useful is this pandemic is obviously bad. Like, lives have been lost, many people sick, many friends of mine horribly sick. Viktoria and other people probably know Jeff Gurion, who's been very sick during this whole time and has told his story. And so it's horrible. And the economic shutdown, I know many people who have been locked down, who lost their jobs, who lost their livelihoods, many people who set up businesses and the businesses are now gone, just people whose dreams have been crushed. And so it's been horrible overall for everybody. But try as an exercise, what are 10 good things that happened as a result of this pandemic? For me, I spent more time with my wife, Robin. I spent more time in nature. I became a little bit more aware of health. I always try to stay up on health. As you guys know, I've had a lot of health experts and doctors and so on the podcast. So I already have some knowledge about health, but this got me a lot more knowledge about my own health and the importance of being outside, even more the importance of good sleep and good food and so on. Plus, I've been learning all about viruses and things like that. In terms of business, I think not having to travel for meetings allowed me to be more productive. I also was able to finish a book. I was also able to start doing these Instagram lives, and I'm doing a show with Robin called Not Your Morning Show, which you could find on my YouTube, one of my YouTube channels. I have two. So there's a lot of benefits personally and even societally to this pandemic. Like, on a societal level, I think, I don't know, in some ways I got a little bit disappointed in how polarized society became. Making lockdown versus no lockdown a political issue just seems so stupid. Like, there are some states or some counties that have 0 deaths, and why was it a political issue that they had to lock down their colleges? Just so many things didn't make sense, and I hope we learn as a society how to deal with that, but we probably won't. I don't think government ever learns. I think government always regresses, but humans learn. And so the challenge for humans is to always don't give up your creativity. Don't give up. Don't outsource your outrage and your creativity to government. I think so many people I knew outsourced their civil rights to government. I was perfectly well, if this virus was gonna, if this was gonna kill 30 or 40% of people, you could guarantee we would have all locked down without being told to do it. And just like now, we're all going outside because we kind of have a sense that, as a society, that this is over, and that it's just political things that are happening right now. Like, why are the states that are opening one party and the states that are closing another party? And I don't even have a party. Like, I don't even know. You would have to tell me. I don't know right now. Is the governor of Texas Democrat or Republican? I'm only assuming it's a Republican because people seem to act like opening too early is a Republican issue, which it isn't. I don't know why that became a Republican issue. I think, liberal means liberated. It comes from the same, whatever you call it, the same roots, the same etymological roots as liberated, as having freedom. So I'm not sure why these things are political issues. And it's sort of stupid to penalize tens of millions. Robin and I passed just the other day a church, and the line for food was 2 or 3 blocks long. We couldn't see the end of the line, and it was young people, old people, all people of all ethnicities. Like, people are hungry. And oh, here we are. I'm back. I am back. Can you see me? Will Trump bail out New York under pressure? Here's the thing. What's there to bail out? Like, you got to bail out, someone asked the question, will Trump bail out New York? What is there to bail out? Stop giving money. One government giving money to another government, even if it's a state or city government, is not going to help the people. Just give money directly to the people. Right now, the only stimulus that will actually work is just giving direct money to human beings. Not companies, not governments, not sports facilities. Just give money to humans. Humans spend money. What happens, they even did a study. If you give someone money, if you give $1,000 to someone who has $5,000, they're gonna spend it much slower than if you give it to someone who has nothing. The person who has nothing needs to spend the money on rent, food, on all the basics. So someone asked, should we bail out New York City? No, don't bail out any government until the economy is normal. Then we can figure out the states. Like New York State, for instance, could sell the SUNY school system or sell their highways and start investing in AI technologies. I don't know. But stop just writing checks for anything other than human beings. Human beings, if you ask the human beings to stay home, give the human beings compensation for that. And of course, unemployment now, I think this is a great thing about unemployment. Other people are complaining. Unemployment now is paying many people more than they would have made on the job. Restaurants are not reopening because the waiters and waitresses are making more money from unemployment than they would at the restaurant. That will lead to some inflation at some point if you want to truly rehire the people. But, this will be interesting. And I don't know if I described, like, the stock market is very interesting right now because everybody says the economy, here's the bullshit headline of the day. The bullshit headline of the day is CNN saying we're already in the next Great Depression. That is so stupid. It boggles my mind how stupid CNN can be. CNN, we're not in the middle of the Great Depression. In the Great Depression, one thing, they did not give any stimulus package at all. In fact, they did the reverse of stimulus because they thought the Great Depression was caused by people speculating too much in the stock market. So this government and this Federal Reserve has done the opposite. We threw trillions of dollars onto the economy. There's not going to be a Great Depression. Yes, there are going to be millions of jobs lost, and that's horrible. Yes, there are going to be millions of...
They don't see you, honey.
They don't see me right now even? Mm-mm. Oh, yeah, why am I not...
I think you have to flip it.
Hold on. Okay. All right. Now, can you see me? All right. Now I'm back. So, Robin, say hello to everybody. Robin just told me everything was facing the other way. So, I forgot what I was saying though. Do you remember what I was saying? No. Anyway, I'll answer another question. Do you think UBI will continue like the stimulus or become a definite thing? I think UBI is, so universal basic income, I think it's a decent thing. Like, clearly the US can do it. Like everyone was saying about UBI, well, how are you going to pay for it? Well, we just did it and nobody complained. You can do a UBI for at least the next 6 to 12 months if you stop giving money to the hotel industry, stop giving money to airlines, stop giving money to colleges, stop giving money to state and local governments. Yes, give a UBI of $2,000 a month to everybody, or at least the 30 to 50 million people who are at the bottom end of the economy. Give a UBI because let people have a chance to relax a little bit and figure out what they want to do. Maybe they don't want to be work in a factory. Maybe they don't want to work in a grocery store. Give people a chance for a few months to take online courses and to learn new skills and to be creative and to spend time with their families. The US can afford it, and a lot of jobs are going to be permanently offline for a while anyway. You can't say permanently and then for a while, but somewhere in the middle. So give a UBI now until the end of the year. Why not? And we can afford it because we can borrow money from other countries. Guess what? The US economy has $300 trillion in assets, and the US government is $25 trillion in debt. So US is the only company in the world, the only country in the world that can afford to do a UBI like this at such a vast level. So yes, do a UBI. I don't think Andrew Yang was so wrong. And I actually like his idea of a VAT tax as well. Right now, everyone's saying, oh no, a VAT tax will lead to inflation. Right now, we're in deflation. Haven't you noticed? Everything's for sale. I'm getting emails all day long. 75% discount on your favorite X, Y, or Z. So do a UBI, borrow the money. Other countries out there are willing to lend us money. Borrow as much as you, even if you're a human, you should borrow as much as you can when people are willing to lend it at low interest rates, at 0% interest rates. The US has almost 0% interest rates. So when you borrow money now, as opposed to, let's say, 5 years from now, the costs are cheap. So borrow the money and just even keep it in the bank. And the US government never has a problem paying back because worst case is they could print the money or borrow more. And again, the US is by far the biggest economy in the world. People are always going to be lending money to the US. And our assets, the balance sheet of the United States is much healthier than most other countries, even with 25 trillion in debt. Don't focus on the number. Focus on the ratio of assets over debt. When you borrow money to buy a house, what's your asset over debt ratio? It's much worse than the US government on average. Most people put down all their life savings when they buy a house, and then they borrow 4 times more. So to buy $1 million house, you put $200,000 down, maybe it's all your savings, and then you borrow $800,000. Your debt, your assets are now zero, and your debt is huge. So the US government has no problem borrowing money. So yes, let's do a UBI. People should figure out what they want to do. There's so many things are going to change in the next few years. Don't go back to work as a waiter. Don't go back to work on an assembly line at a factory. Take a course on how to be a social media whatever, or take a programming course or a photography course or a beatboxing course or write a book. In these IG Lives, I've been really happy to share 2 or 3 different book challenge ideas where you could write a complete book in a month, and then from that book you'll get speaking opportunities, consulting opportunities, maybe investing opportunities, entrepreneurship opportunities. Maybe we write more books and make more money. So all of these things you can do if you just had a little bit of free time. And so, yeah, let's do a UBI. Why not? And you think anybody wants to raise a family on $2,000 a month? That's impossible almost anywhere in the U.S. So the UBI is not going to stop people from working. And, I think Americans need a break right now. We've just been stressed out of our minds for the past 10 weeks. Someone says, who buys a $1 million house with only $200K in life savings? I did. And it was a mistake. So maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm the only one in the world who did that, but I doubt it. Let's see. More questions from Jay. What's my biggest challenge right now? My biggest challenge right now is figuring out how to balance all the things I'm interested in with my time. And I think it's always important to remember that, as long as you're alive, you always want to strive for the next thing. Like, I was just talking to a very successful author, and I said to him, "You're so successful. You're in your 60s. You've reached this pinnacle of your career. Do you still kind of compare yourself to others?" And he said, "Absolutely, every single day." So I think that actually the biggest challenge in my life is I wish I didn't always. There's that saying, when you compare, you despair. I think I probably compare myself too much to others. I'll say, why doesn't my podcast have even more downloads? Why aren't my books even more popular? Why do people always trash me sometimes? Or why aren't there more people even visiting my Instagram Live? But at the end of the day, you do have to realize life is short, and we only get this one life to live, and spend time with your family and your loved ones. When at your funeral, my kids are not going to say, "Boy, Daddy was the #1 podcast under the category How To in the U.S." They're not going to say that. Humble brag there. They're going to say, though, "My daddy taught me this, he taught me that, he spent this time with me." I'll always remember when he tried to teach me how to ride a bicycle, and completely failed, by the way. My kids who grew up in suburban and rural areas still cannot ride a bicycle, which is pathetic. If you're on, it's pathetic. But I wasn't a good teacher. So I think that's my biggest challenge. Do the 10,000 hours apply to beatboxing? That's an interesting question. So the 10,000 hour rule, I'll just summarize, is the idea that if you pick something like golf or beatboxing or violin or writing or business or sales, if you pick an area that you're interested in, if you practice it for 10,000 hours, you'll be among the best in the world. And so I reject this idea completely. And my next book, I write about something, among other things, I write about something I call the 10,000 experiment rule, which is that if you do 10,000 experiments in whatever it is you're interested in, then you'll be among the best. I actually think it's much less. I think if you do between 100 and 1,000 experiments, you'll be in the top 1% in the world of whatever it is you're interested in. So beatboxing, I think you have to learn the basic skills. Like maybe there's call it 20 basic sounds. I don't really know, but let's say it's 20 basic sounds and maybe 2 or 3 skills that you need to practice. And you do have to practice for many hours those skills, but it's always going to be the case. It's not just about learning the skill. It's about taking a skill and becoming one of the best in the world at it. So take Andy Warhol for an instance. Andy Warhol is a great example where he put 10,000 hours into drawing. So if you look at Andy Warhol's, he used to work for an advertising agency. And if you look at his ads that he would draw, he was probably the most accurate illustrator you've ever seen. He would draw so accurately, it was like a photograph. But he's not famous as an illustrator. When you think of Andy Warhol, you don't think of, I bet you probably can't picture any of his drawings as an illustrator. But what you think of is the Campbell soup can, or you think of the Marilyn Monroe images that he did over and over again. So the way Andy Warhol became the best in the world is that he took his artistic sense, but not necessarily his ability, his artistic sense, and he experimented. The first experiment he did was he did these kitschy cartoons and blew it up like art. But then he realized one of his best friends, Roy Lichtenstein, was already doing that. So that experiment didn't work. Then he did another experiment. Somebody actually gave him the idea. He didn't come up with the idea on his own, by the way. Someone gave him the idea, hey, why don't you paint a Campbell's soup can? So I think he gave the guy like $100. Can I buy that idea you just said? And he painted a Campbell's soup can, and he invented, quote unquote, pop art. So it was only by experimenting that we know who Andy Warhol is. We don't know because he spent 10,000 hours becoming a great illustrator. We don't know any of his illustrations. In fact, many of his great works of art were made by other people. He famously combined American industrialism, the assembly line, to the painting of art, and that was part of his innovations in the art world. But it was, again, only by experiments that we know who Andy Warhol is, not by the 10,000 hour rule. So another example might be, John Grisham. So did John Grisham spend 10,000 hours becoming one of the world's most popular novelists? No. In fact, I bet you don't know this. John Grisham's very first novel was not The Firm. John Grisham's very first novel got rejected by, it's the usual story, he got rejected by 20 publishers, and he hired a small press, and he published 5,000 copies of the book. I forget what the name of it was. But it was one of his. It became later known. And then he was like, "Ugh, screw this. Writing is horrible." And so he decided, "Oh, I'm just going to try one more idea." And he wrote The Firm, and that became his best-selling book that sold everywhere. So again, he experimented with the format of a legal thriller, and it wasn't the 10,000 hours of writing he put in. It was experimenting. What is a legal thriller? And experimenting with the format of a legal thriller. And that's what made him essentially, a billionaire. I have a friend who is the hedge fund. A Time to Kill was the actual first book that he wrote. And it ended up becoming his second or third book because it got rejected everywhere. And by the way, A Time to Kill is probably the only book by his I haven't read because it looks a little too literary. Like, I like to read literary books by literary writers, and John Grisham happens to be a master at writing a legal thriller. So again, he experimented with the format before he doubled down on the legal thriller. So experimenting, if you want to be the top in your field, experimenting is so much more important than 10,000 hours. Andy Warhol is a great example. In comedy, I'll give you an example. I might have talked about it before, but Chris Turner is a 27-year-old kid. I call him a kid. And he can perform. It's very unusual for someone that young to be able to perform in every comedy club he wants to. But Chris Turner can do that because he's a good stand-up comedian, but he also was a good freestyle rapper. He had idea sex. He combined comedy with freestyle rapping, and boom, he is the funniest freestyle rapper comedian out there. He performs wherever he wants. I'm surprised he doesn't even have a Netflix special yet. But you could YouTube Chris Turner freestyle rap. He's amazing. He's been on my podcast also, and on the fly, he asked us for 5 words. He put all 5 words into a freestyle rap, and it was amazingly intelligent. He talked about volcanoes on Mars, my podcast, Malaysia, and Jay would remember the other 2 things. But skipping the line is about, and becoming the top 1% in your field is all about how good you are at coming up with good experiments to learn more and more in your field. So for instance, for me, when I started professionally investing, I would experiment. Okay, I'll study value investing and then experiment a little. I'll study growth investing. I'll study using computer software to invest. I'll study using arbitrage. And so I would experiment in all these different ways, and software became my best way to not only be a successful investor, but also to successfully distinguish myself enough so that I could raise money. And so I became a hedge fund manager, which put me in the top 1% of professional investors. Most professional investors don't run their own hedge fund. So I was able to do that by experimenting rather than putting in 10,000 hours into learning investing. Now, at this point, I probably have spent 10,000 hours, but it doesn't even matter to me anymore. It would matter to me back then when I was trying to very quickly. Everybody was telling me, you can't do this. You can't work for a hedge fund if you didn't, or you can't start a hedge fund if you didn't work for Goldman Sachs, or if you didn't get your MBA at Harvard, or if you didn't work at a big hedge fund already. Oh yeah, I did some experiments. I did a couple hundred experiments, and then I started my own hedge fund. I raised money. I raised about $60 or $70 million, which is not a big hedge fund, but gave me a lot of experience and it helped me to make a living. And I was in the top 1% of professional investors because of just doing experiments. Oh, and all the people who told me can't, they disappeared. I don't know where they are, but I did what I wanted to do. And I succeeded in skipping the line. I skipped past all of them. They were all saying, boy, I better work at Goldman Sachs another 5 years, and then I could finally start my own hedge fund. Well, I was a professional investor for only 1 year, and when I started, or no, I was a professional investor for about 2 years, and then I started my first hedge fund. So, again, experimenting is so much more valuable than the 10,000 hour rule. And Julia Cameron, who wrote The Artist's Way about creativity, she was the one who really, she said to me literally to my face, I feel really sorry for you, James, that it's like the 10,000 hour rule has put you in prison, put your creativity in prison. You won't unlock yourself because you think this 10,000 hour rule is holding you back. And it was true. So that's when I started experimenting more with comedy and becoming more successful at it. That's when I started experimenting more even with my writing and I'm always experimenting with writing. What if you write a story that's not just in the first person, but also the second person and the third person? That's an experiment and it's worth trying. What if you experiment by writing the story of Jesus, but in a science fiction format? Boom, that's an experiment. What would a Messiah look like in a galaxy a long, long time ago, far, far away? I have no idea. What would that look like? And so think in terms of experiments, not in terms of hours practice. So once I get the basic skills, for instance, in beatboxing, I'll experiment. Maybe I'll use beatboxing in comedy and see what happens. Because I'm not going to win the World Beatboxing Championship. I'm never going to get, even if I spend 10,000 hours at it, I'm probably not going to get that good. Not that I even want to get that good. But using that skill and combining it with comedy, who knows what will happen. A very good comedian, check out Greer Barnes, Greer Barnes, and you'll see how a combination of beatboxing and comedy is so effective. He is one of the best stand-up comedians on the planet, but he also has this beatboxing element that's incredible. And boom, that even further makes him among the best. Let's see. Another question. Are there any other questions? Great question. Why am I not self-publishing my next book? I always talk about self-publishing, and it's a good question. And I even have a course on self-publishing, and I've also, for free, you don't even have to take my course, because for free, I've been giving you a lot of the techniques of self-publishing, plus I've given you a bunch of book challenges. I mean, I don't know if when I mentioned it, but one person who was listening to these Instagram lives, at least one person did the 30-day book challenge, published their book, The Stoic Salesman. He combined the elements of stoicism with his passion for being a good salesperson, wrote The Stoic Salesman. It's on Amazon. I just ordered it. He self-published it. If he had gone to a publisher, it would be published 2 years from now, best case. So it's a good question. Why don't I always self-publish? Well, my first 6 or 7 books I published with a mainstream publisher, and then Choose Yourself, I self-published, and then I started self-publishing. I probably self-published about 10 to 15 books. Every now and then, again, you don't want to you don't want to always stay on one lane. Every now and then you want to switch lanes because you want to pass some people and you want to get a different perspective. So I don't like to just do one thing over and over. I was curious, if I publish with a traditional publisher, is the experience different? And so there was an editor that I had with HarperCollins in 2010, and that was actually my book. I think I have the book here, Investing for the Apocalypse, Chapter 1, Pandemic, published in 2011. This book, And my editor was Hollis Heimbach. And let me show you. It was actually chapter 2, but it was after the introduction. Hold on. Pandemic, where I describe exactly this pandemic and how I would analyze it and what investments I would look for. But anyway, I had a really good editor, and I didn't give a shit about this book. I actually hated writing it. It was just it was kind of a BS book. It was like my last book I wrote about investing, and I decided, I hate this. And so I don't think I really listened to her as an editor, and I felt she was really smart though. So this time around, I'm writing this book, Skip the Line, which is more about my ideas. And it's the first time since Choose Yourself, that I'm using a really great editor and publisher to publish this book. And I can already see we've gone through 3 rounds of edits and rewrites, and it's such a pleasure to work with such a great editor. Most editors that work for publishing companies are not good editors. She is a great editor, and I'm really happy to be working with her. And that's why I'm publishing it with a mainstream publisher right now. If they were to cancel my contract today, I would be fine, and I would return the money, and I would self-publish, and I would probably be happier because I have the benefit of her edits, plus I could publish today as opposed to waiting a year. That's the problem with regular publishing. Because look, the other reason I wanted to publish with a regular publisher is I wanted to have more of a chance to be in bookstores and the airport bookstore, but all those things are going away. How many of you are going to visit a bookstore anymore? I kind of think Barnes & Noble was already on its way out of business. And remember, the most important theme of this whole pandemic is acceleration. Anything that was going to happen 10 years from now is going to happen now. Barnes & Noble was certainly going to go out of business within the next 10 years. So now it's going to happen. My prediction, you're going to see Barnes & Noble file for bankruptcy within the next year. JCPenney's, I think today, just filed for bankruptcy. They had no chance of surviving in the long term, so we'll see what happens. But most clothing retailers are gonna go bankrupt. This is a great time for you to start a clothing line, for me to start a clothing line. You can get materials cheap, you could drop ship, you could design clothes cheap. And there's two types of ways to design clothes. So let's assume you have all the materials you want. And now I want to make a button-down shirt made out of linen, and I want to put a black stripe on it. So that's a design. And what if I want to put a pocket here with a black outline around it? That's a design. But you can also change the structure of how something is. What if I wanted to have a shirt with 3 inside pockets and 1 zipper? I'm now changing structurally how you think of a button-down shirt. So you can do all of that now online and set up your own clothing line for almost nothing. So I think these kind of old school clothing lines and retailers are all going out of business, and we're all going to become retailers. So I love the idea of making my own clothing line. And people will say, you can't do that. What do you know about fashion? What do you know about textiles? Well, Sarah Blakely, who has a multi-billion-dollar fashion line of women's underwear, she knew nothing about fashion. She knew nothing about fashion design. She knew nothing about textiles, and she made Spanx, which is a multi-billion-dollar clothing company. So again, it's not like you should be stupid and not know anything, and it's not like the experts are stupid, but use your own judgment about when to use the experts. I mean, a great example, and we've talked about this example before, the Wright brothers. So I've talked about the Wright brothers inventing the airplane before, but I talked about it in the context of idea sex. They took the ideas from a bird, and they took the ideas from a bike. A bike you could wobble, and a bird has aerodynamics with the wings. They combined them together, and they made an airplane. But there's other interesting ideas with the Wright brothers. So the Wright brothers, there was no science of aerodynamics then. No one knew how to fly a plane. No one knew how planes work. So they weren't scientists, and everyone told them, you can't. The government is hiring Samuel Langley, a genius, to make the first airplane. How can you're the Wright brothers, Orville and Wilbur. You have the stupidest names in the world, and you're just you fix bikes in Dayton, Ohio. Why would anybody trust you to make a plane? So Samuel Langley, the government, the U.S. government gave him $50,000, like millions of dollars in today's money, and he made a plane, and it crashed and broke to a million pieces on the only time it tried to fly. It didn't fly at all. The Wright brothers, they experimented and experimented and experimented, and they shared, by the way, all of their ideas. So other people shared ideas with them. Samuel Langley didn't share any of his ideas. Plane crashes. When you don't share ideas, you crash. Everybody thinks, oh no, these are my ideas. They're my beautiful ideas. I gotta keep them to myself. No, that's when you crash and burn. The Wright brothers shared with hundreds of people around the world, and then they got ideas back, and they incorporated all of these ideas, plus their own intuition about bicycles wobbling, and this is how birds fly. And boom, they made the first airplane. They weren't experts. They didn't have 10,000 hours. They just experimented, and they tinkered, and they did idea sex, and that's how they invented the first airplane. And who were they battling? The experts, the people with the PhDs, the people with government backing. So there was a lot of, I'll call it expertism during this pandemic, where we trusted a little bit too much the people making the models until we realized it was all the emperors it was the emperor wears no clothes. And I don't even think people even realize that now, that we shut down the whole globe for people who were literally naked. Like Neil Ferguson, who made the mathematical model that we shut down the whole economy. He said there's going to be 10 million deaths around the world. He was caught without his clothes with a woman who was cheating on her husband. And during the social distancing, right when he was telling everyone, you can't even see your loved ones during social distancing. I haven't seen three of my five kids. I haven't seen them in 10 weeks because that guy said you can't see your loved ones during this period of social distancing, and he was going out and meeting his mistress, and they were doing everything during social distancing, and her husband had coronavirus. So that was the model we trusted. So I hope during this pandemic that we no longer trust blindly. We no longer outsource all of our civil liberties to the experts. Like I would tweet things, like I would just tweet a question like, these mathematical models don't make sense. How could South Korea have 94 deaths, but they're saying there's going to be 2.2 million deaths in the United Kingdom? Even if you don't follow, and South Korea didn't lock down, and the UK barely locked down, the math just didn't make any sense. And people would say, I think I'm going to follow the experts and not you, James. Well, look where you are now. You've probably lost your job for following the experts, or I don't know what you did, but the experts were the last people to follow. Everyone should have confidence in themselves, in their ability to come up with ideas with the best of them. The other day I was talking to Ray J, the singer, and Matthew sometimes comes on this IG Live, who works with Ray J. Ray J created this electric bike. It's called the Scoot e-bike. And I was saying to him, why don't you just put two bikes together and put a cover over it, and now you have a car, because you have two seats and it has a cover, and it'll seem like a car. You like combine the handlebars or make it into a steering wheel, and now you have you have four wheels and you have a car. And he started laughing. He's like, oh no, I'm not Elon Musk. I don't know anything, but why can't you just combine two e-bikes and make a car? Like the benefit of being an independent, free human being is that you could come up with ideas, you can practice your idea muscle, and then you could test things. So for me, I could buy two of the e-bikes, sort of bind them together, make a steering wheel with very little mechanical ability. I have zero mechanical ability, and see if I can make a little car. Who knows? Put on a better engine. I'm not mechanical at all, but there's nothing wrong with trying things. What's the key to writing? The key to writing is having something to say. So, for instance, my latest book is called, there's several keys to writing, okay? From a macro level to a micro level. So first off, you have to ask these questions. Who are you? Why are you? And why now? So remember that. 3 questions. Who are you? Why are you? Why now? And so you have to answer those questions if you're going to write a book. And so, who am I? I'm a person who's succeeded and failed at a lot of different things, and so I've developed this ability to bounce back, whether I like it or not, because I don't like bouncing back. It's not fun. But and I've had lots of interests in life where I had to, in order to feed my family, I had to very quickly skip the line. I had to very quickly get to be the top 1% in the world so I could make a living, or I could start a business, or I could, who knows? I had to always skip very fast against all the people who told me I can't. So that's the why am I is I had to feed a family, so I developed this ability of always skipping the line, whether it was investing or computer software or writing or podcasting. I had to train myself. What are the meta abilities to skip the line? And whenever I changed careers, so that's the why am I, and the why now is answered by we all now are going through this period. There's 36 million people unemployed. We're all going through this period where we have to kind of learn who we are and what our skill sets are and how we can quickly monetize so we could feed ourselves and then feed our families and our loved ones and the people we're responsible for. So skipping the line now is more important than it ever has been before in the past. So those three questions I had to ask before I started writing my book. The second thing I had to do was figure out what's the story of my book. So even though it's a nonfiction book, what's the story? Well, the story is a little bit what I started to say, is that we're all at this point when we're starting from zero. We have these enemies, the people who tell us we can't, and the institutions. You can't be a doctor, you can't be a lawyer. Do you realize if you were trained as a manicurist in Alabama, you cannot be a manicurist in Florida. So is it really the case that taking care of someone's nails is so much different in Alabama that you're absolutely not allowed to do it in Florida unless you get a license also in Florida for $1,500? Like, the whole licensing industry is a scam. So that's one of the enemies in my story of skipping the line, is that the hero, which is you and me, the reader and the writer, the hero goes on a journey where they want to switch their passion and their interest, and they want to do it in such a way that they could quickly get to the top so they could feed their family, so they could save themselves, so they could save their family. The enemies are your friends, who tell you can't, your bosses, your professors, the government, other institutions. You can't do this. That's the enemy. And then it's a journey. It's an adventure to get to the end of the book and find out how you can get on the other side of can't. So 2 things. The key to writing is to, number 1, answer these 3 questions. Who are you? Why are you? Why now? The second key is, what's the arc of the story? Whether you're telling a tweet or a nonfiction book or a novel or a letter to your mom or your letter to your girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever, you always need an arc of the story. Third thing, not as important, but is still very important, and people still have such a limited attention span, you need to be able to say, hey, you need to start off books with cliffhangers. You need to, if it bleeds, it leads. And every chapter needs to end with a cliffhanger. Always have a cliffhanger. And, a couple people have been asking me what stocks I'm looking at. I will tell you what stock, I think right now, I finally, enough data is clear to me that now is the time to invest. It doesn't mean the market is at a bottom, but if the market go down to lower lows, that's impossible to predict. Anybody who predicts that is an idiot. But there are some companies where there is extreme amounts of value, and they're usually it's not going to be Apple, it's not going to be Amazon. Those are the ones that are in the front. It's not going to be the companies that are on the front page of the newspaper every day. It's going to be odd companies. I'll get to that in a second. I talked about this bullshit headline of the day. It's not Netflix, by the way, because Netflix has too much competition now with Disney Plus, HBO Max, Pluto, CBS All Access, Amazon, Hulu, Apple Plus. So it's not Netflix. Content is king, but content distribution is a commodity. So you have to always ask, what's a commodity and what's king? But I'll get to it in a second, but I already mentioned the bullshit headline of the day was CNN saying we're already in a Great Depression. And I explained why this is the bullshit headline of the day. CNN should be arrested for headlines like this. But so I'm going to go to the truth-telling website. This website is the one magazine that always tells the truth and nothing but the truth. So I'm going to cosmopolitan.com. There's a huge graphic of a nuclear bomb going off. I don't know if I like that. And then here's their headline, the top headline of the day: how to put your life back together. Practical advice for post-pandemic times. I love that title. So that's an actual useful title. Instead of scaring people like, oh my gosh, Great Depression's already happening, go under the covers and hide. This is an actual useful title. And okay, I'm clicking on it. I haven't gone to it. It's advice on how to cope with loss, how to get back to work, how to deal with every money problem that was just dumped on you, how to get into a better headspace, how to handle everything you had to cancel. That's good advice, Cosmopolitan. I'll read that article later. What's another Cosmopolitan? Let's have a runner-up. Hold on. I saw one. Here's a great headline. This is on cosmopolitan.com. It's time to get rich while sitting on your couch. Boom. Why doesn't CNN have... That's a title useful to us. Why doesn't CNN have those titles or any of these news sites? Okay, here's the first way. There's a website you could go to test beauty products and you'll get paid in cash. Here's another one. I never heard of this. Rent My Wardrobe. Rent out your clothes. Here's one we've talked about. Take surveys, but we've already talked about that here. Get rid of your gift cards. I never heard of that. Cardpool.com or cardcash.com. Never heard of that. Sell your clothes. Okay, we talked about that. Sign up for cashback services like Rakuten. I don't even know what that is. Rakuten gives its users back a percentage of their purchase on any of their partner sites. Boom. If you exercise, sign up for Gym Pact, and the app gives you money every time you stick to your workout goals, paid for by the people who don't stick to theirs. That's brilliant. Man, Cosmopolitan is the place to go. Study credit card offers. Pick one that has rewards that you'd actually take advantage of. Okay, I don't know. Sign up for focus groups. We talked about that. House sit. We've talked about that a little bit. But anyway, I'm going to study this site. Gazelle.com. You can sell your old iPhone, giving new life to used smartphones and other devices. Oh, brilliant. So, Cosmopolitan, 2 articles that are so much better than any CNN article. CNN will always have the bullshit article of the day, I feel like. The bullshit headline of the day. Anyway, I have a minute left. Thank you all for attending these IG Lives. Please let me know feedback either on Instagram or Twitter. I'm going to save this on my IG stories and maybe IGTV. Jay is going to save this on my YouTube channel. And Evan Carmichael also save this on his YouTube channel. Thank you so much, Evan. And please give me some feedback on Twitter or something. I'm trying to figure out the format and how this fits in. My wife Robin and I also do a show every day called Not Your Morning Show, and it's about the news you should pay attention to and other food for thought, and we put it on my YouTube channel. So, and we're going to make it a podcast as well. So I'm trying to figure out how we might combine them. So give me some feedback. The stock ideas, I didn't say them. I will save them for tomorrow. Tomorrow, IG Live at 2 p.m. Stock ideas that I'm looking at. And that's how you do a cliffhanger. Thanks so much.